What's up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And guys, today we are talking about the Denver Broncos draft. This is my draft breakdown for the Denver Broncos. We talk about all the players that were drafted in the first 3 rounds for the Broncos. Gonna break down some of the trades that they made, and also at the end I will give you my final grade, my best, worst, all that good stuff. Let's get right into it. Before I do, hey, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you enjoy this kind of content, I would appreciate the sub. I've been really growing over the past couple months, and hey, we're just trying to keep it moving. But getting into it, let's put up the entire draft as a whole here. And really, obviously, you know, they go cornerback early, which I think was one of their bigger needs. I think a trade up for running back has kind of the draft community and draft analysts kind of split. I'll get to my thoughts on that. I actually really like that move altogether. Just in those mid rounds, ton of linebacker and safety help. They really wanted help over the middle of the field, right? Overall, this is a team that I feel like came in with a plan. They attacked a bunch of their major needs, and I'm really excited to see how this draft class works out. I'm actually a lot higher than I feel like I've seen anybody else talking about it. I actually really like this draft class as a whole. But moving on, let's talk about some of the players they got, and we have to start with the second Alabama player drafted in this class, which is just crazy that it ended up being Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain, cornerback, 6'2", obviously has the bloodline, 6'2", 208 pounds, great technique, fluid hips, has 38 consecutive starts at Alabama. You know, I think one of my bigger issues was kind of he did struggle in 2020 a little bit here and there. Now again, we're talking about struggled from the context of, yeah, this was a guy who was projected to be the best corner in this class, so he struggled in that perspective. And also, like, I don't think Alabama gets nearly enough credit for playing an all SEC, schedule this year. Like, I mean, he was facing legit athletes at the wide receiver position every single week. And also, this is a guy who was used in a lot of different ways, a lot of versatility to his game. He went inside and played nickel at times. He played outside. He did all of those things. So just a very well-rounded corner. One of my other bigger issues, obviously, I do wonder about elite speed. Usually when you talk about corners in like this top 10 range, and again, I'm being very nitpicky, so don't hear what I'm not saying. I absolutely love this selection. I thought it was a slam dunk pick by them. But just when you're talking about these top 10 pick, we're in the category of we're trying to draft an elite corner in that top 10. That's the range. If you're going top 10, you better be able to play, you better be able to run, and the speed is just really good. It's not like elite. So that's kind of like was my other issue. Overall, like the pick, I mean, I have no problem with it, and I was a little bit surprised. I did think this was gonna be a Micah Parsons, just knowing Vic Fangio, just seeing what he's done with some of the other top 10 linebackers that he's had in that in his defensive scheme, and knowing how important linebacker is to that scheme overall. I did think Micah Parsons would be the move, but I think Denver kind of told us that they were really looking to improve their corner position. In the offseason, they move on from an AJ Bouye who just fell off a cliff after playing for Jacksonville, really good for Jacksonville for a couple of years there. They bring in a Ronald Darby who has just been okay. I think he's going to be a back end of the roster, type of move. I don't expect that to be, I don't think you're excited to start a Ronald Darby at this point in his career. I'll put it that way. And then also they bring in a Kyle Fuller from the Bears. Obviously, Vic Fangio connections there, and we'll see what they can get out of him. Kyle Fuller, I don't really have a good gauge for where he's at in his career. Obviously, he used to be really good. We'll see what we're going to get from the 2021 Kyle Fuller. But overall, you look at that cornerback room, and it's like, you have Bryce Callahan, who's really good. But beyond that, you definitely feel like you need some help. So bringing in Patrick Surtain, I think he's a starter day one, and I think if not, he is going to be learning behind some pretty good veterans to learn behind if he doesn't start day one, which I would be very surprised if he's not on the field, from the first snap of the 2021 season. Moving on to the second round, they trade up for running back Javonte Williams. I'm going to talk about the player first, and then I want to talk about the trade and trade value, because I really get into trade value, and usually, running back at the top of the second round, that's really where you do get premium running backs. This year was a little different. You had Etienne and Najee Harris go first round a lot earlier than I thought they were going to. And I'll just speak for myself. I'm a Dolphins fan, so looking at the board, I really thought the Dolphins were going to have a chance at either an Etienne or Najee Harris at 36. So I really thought the board was going to play out a little bit differently for those running backs, but it didn't. There was really only one running back left that was even close to that tier. And for me, my grades personally, I had Javonte Williams really close to Najee Harris as a running back. He was a couple points away from being my RB RB2 in this class. Now, granted, that's just my take and that's my personal opinion, but I'm a big fan of Javonte Williams. You're talking about a guy who is a downhill runner, has that second gear in the open field, has that really good combination of power and physicality. Dude, just a bowling ball. He really is. And he has that lateral quickness and explosiveness to combine with his physical, play style. It's really awesome. And really the only negative thing, okay, he's not really your pass catcher at this point, just average hands at UNC. You'd like to see him improve on that. That's something you can improve on. I think you got a great running back. I think the Broncos brought in a guy who is going to be replacing a Gordon and probably not. I mean, obviously he's going to compete for playing time and be a pretty good running back in the 21 season, but really 2022, Gordon will be gone and it'll be Javonte Williams' show there from there on out, right? I would expect that. Obviously they ended up having to move on from a Philip Lindsay, who just a smaller guy, and it's so sad for guys like that. He was a UDFA superstar, right? Pro Bowl his first year, and got banged up and just was not the same level of explosive last year. And now I think he's with the Texans, bottom end of the Texans roster, and we'll see what happens with him. But there was certainly a need there. There was a missing piece at the running back position. They missed on a Royce Freeman in the third round a couple years ago. They needed this RB2. They obviously have the Gordon at number 1. I will say personally though, I don't think it's gonna take to the end of the year before Javonte Williams usurps Gordon as the number 1 running back. I think Gordon showed his age just a little bit in that 2020 season, and he had really good games here and there, but there were also some games where I was like, man, he's lost a step, right? And I think that's just that's what happens, man. I mean, an older running back, middle of his second contract, that's about what you get from the running back in today's NFL. That is what it is, especially a guy who was run into the ground with the Chargers. I mean, that's the nature of the game. There's nothing more you can say about it. But now I want to transition over to the trade, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, it was you trade up for a running back, you gave up assets to draft a running back, it was a bad move, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, listen, the trade chart would say the Falcons won this trade. But really, this is the part of the trade that I feel like nobody's talking about, and it's the tier drop after the Javonte Williams move, right? So they trade in front of the Dolphins, who I guess they believed were going to take Javonte Williams. I'm a Dolphins fan. We were connected to a lot of these running backs, so I think Javonte Williams was certainly going to be in play there at 36 overall. Broncos make the right move to trade ahead and get the RB. Here's why I think it was an even better move than people are wanting to admit. I'm just going to put up this is the list of running backs and where they went in the draft. After Javonte Williams, there was not another running back drafted for about almost 2 rounds. The back end of the third round, the next running back went off the board. The teardrop after Javonte Williams was real. It was a huge drop. So if the Broncos came into this draft saying, man, we're sitting at 40, we would really like to land one of the top 3 running backs. I'm sure in their best case scenario, an Etienne or Najee Harris falls into the second round, and they would have been able to trade up for one of those guys, right? And I'm sure if they were in that situation, they probably would have been looking at the board, decided maybe, okay, we'll wait on Javonte Williams at 40. That didn't happen. Running back went in the first round twice. So really, you take him away, there was nobody else that was in this range. So that to me is just like a little bit of nuance as to why, okay, yeah, you traded up, you gave up a 4th round pick, and the draft analysts and the analytics of the world will tell you that was a bad move to trade up for a running back specifically. But man, I just think everything has to come with nuance, and I just wanted to bring that up and put that into the conversation a little bit there. Moving on to the third round, with their first pick in the third round, they are able to pull in a lineman, either going to be a guard or center. We'll see how it ends up going. He's a small school dude who was like that Senior Bowl standout. Obviously not a lot of film from 2020, but I mean, he's an incredibly aggressive and physical guy. And also, when I was watching it on draft day, they were showing him like punching trees and just like picking up like logs and stuff and moving around. That was like his workout during like the 2020 off season weird year. But man, just I think a really good pick, high upside guy. Obviously, you wonder how it's going to translate versus NFL talent and NFL defensive tackles. You never know until you know. But I mean, I think definitely has a good chance to start year one, and certainly has like the upside of a really good center or guard, wherever they end up playing him. I think he's going to be center, but I'm not 100% sure on that that one. And then their last pick in the third round, they did make a trade, which I will touch on in a second after I talk about this player. They ended up going and getting a Baron Browning. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I'm going to give you like my full experience with Baron Browning. This is a guy who was like on my list of linebackers to watch. I watched him out of Ohio State, and I didn't get it. I'm not going to lie. I watched him like, man, no instincts. Like, I felt like he didn't trust his eyes. I felt like there was a lot of issues there. I just didn't feel like he was, I did not understand why he was being talked about as like a top end linebacker. And then I go and look at his measurables. I go look at kind of some of the things the scouts are talking about, and the reason he gets drafted in the third round, and I'm gonna put the graphic up now: physical tools, play strength. He is explosive as hell, and that does show up on film. I will admit, like I understood that aspect of it, but to me, like I watched a guy who played in a lot of different spots at Ohio State. They moved him around a little bit. I watched a guy who just, I felt like, struggled in the trash, just getting off of blocks and things like that. Just at the end of the day, poor linebacker instincts, and I think that was really what I came away with. Now the analytics crowd, they love this pick. I have to imagine, because he scores out of this world as like just an athletic specimen at the linebacker position. I lean more towards like the film side than I do the analytics side, but I really get into draft value and stuff, as you have already seen in this video. So I try and merge the two a little bit as much as I can. This is a guy, hey, listen, if you are an athletic linebacker with a ton of potential, but kind of struggled with instincts and things like that, there's no better coach that can be coaching you than Vic Fangio. I mean, the amount of stud linebackers in his resume is ridiculous. So this could be another one. I do not want to have my name next to saying that I don't think Browning here is going to be good. I certainly do. I think he has a ton of potential. I would say year one, I'm not going to expect anything more than some special teams usage from Browning year one. Before we get into some of my final grades, I do want to just touch on the trade that they made in that third round, trading back with the Saints, acquiring an extra third round pick. Awesome value. I always look at the Saints as a team that kind of like they see certain guys that they want, and they spend the picks to go get them. So I just wanted to bring that up, put that out there, say, hey, the Broncos did a really good job of handling their draft value and all of those things. Let's move on to my best and worst move from this 2021 draft class for the Broncos. My best move was the Javonte Williams trade up. I think understanding the value of the running back in that spot, of the player specifically in that spot, right? Understanding that, hey, there's a huge tier drop. The Dolphins were probably going to take Javonte Williams if the Broncos don't trade up ahead of him. Just a good move and a really good job of playing the board and understanding value and all these other things, right? Also, really liked the trade down in the third round. I almost made that their best move. And then their worst move, listen, I mentioned it a handful of times. I'm not a big fan of Browning, their linebacker in the third round. That would be, and it's kind of like, honestly, I couldn't have picked a better spot for him to land. I really believe that. So I don't hate the move for the Broncos, but I kind of look at this draft class. I really like this draft class overall. I said that at the top of the show. I'm kind of splitting hairs here with just like a player I wasn't super high on, but honestly, if I was building out a board for the Broncos, he would have been a lot higher, just because he's going to get to learn and play in that Vic Fangio defense. Vic Fangio has a better chance than anybody to get the most out of this player, and there's certainly a high ceiling there. So you gotta love that, and I do think it's a good fit. But for me, wasn't a big fan of the player coming in the draft, and I'm kind of splitting hairs here with the worst move because I gotta have something there. Let's move on to my grades, and I break the grades down into three things: players, draft value, and needs. We'll talk about players first, just the players that they got. I'm giving it an A-, and this is actually almost a B+. I moved it up to an A- because I really just I love Patrick Surtain at 9. I love Javonte Williams. I was a huge fan of Javonte Williams, especially. Quinn Maneiras was a popular player coming in this class. I like him. Obviously, the only player that I just didn't absolutely love from this Broncos class was Baron Browning. And, hey, I already kind of said my piece on that, so you kind of know where I'm at with that one. And then for me, draft value, I'm giving it an A. I think they handled the draft really well. The trade down in the third round, great move. You got to love it when a team like the Saints puts that offer on the table. You almost have to take it, especially, hey, what do you want? Two third round picks or just one? I'll take the 2. And then obviously the trade up for Javonte Williams, I really like that move, regardless of what some analytics people might say. I thought that was a great move. So overall, I thought they handled the board really well. There was never a point where I felt like they were reaching on a player. There was really never a point where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I mentioned Browning as I thought he was going to end up being a day 3 guy, but I totally get it. He was projected to be a second round pick. So just my assessment and versus the world's assessment is just a little bit different there. And I totally get why he went third round. The upside, again, as I've said 100 times, very, very good. And then needs, I'm going to give this an A-. Really the only need that they didn't hit. They hit corner, which I think was their biggest need. They hit running back, which I thought was like a secondary need, but was, very important to them, obviously. They hit offensive lineman, they hit linebacker. They did all the things I felt like, okay, you need help here and there. And then what do? They grabbed 2 safeties in the 5th round. I think, they're probably hoping that they can hit on one of those guys to get some starter value out of one of those guys. You hope to see that. And really the only position that I would have liked to have seen them touch, interior defensive line. But the thing is, and I almost knocked it for it, there was 2 interior defensive linemen that I liked, and then there was a couple others that I really liked, but I don't think would have been scheme fit for what Vic Fangio has done in the past anyway. So I taking that away, there was really only 2 guys on the board. One of them was already gone when they traded up to 35, picked up the running back, and the other one went mid-second round. Just, there was never an opportunity to get one of those guys, and in a poor defensive tackle class, I actually like that they didn't reach on a player that maybe wouldn't have performed as well as some of the other picks that they got. So overall, hey, I'm a big fan of this class. I'm a big fan of the Broncos in general. I know I didn't talk about the quarterback dilemma. I didn't talk about the possibility of bringing in a Rodgers. How is Drew Lock going to develop in his like kind of make or break year this year? I didn't really mention that in the show. I'm going to touch on it right now just because I do think it's worth mentioning that throughout this draft process, I've always said give Drew Lock another chance. I've said that 100 times. It seems like probably even more than that. And the reason I have stuck with that and said that and stayed so strongly on that fact is because I'm a big fan of Drew Lock. I was coming into the draft, and last year I thought he got a raw deal. Yes, he played bad in games. He certainly did. I'm not going to excuse any of that, and I certainly understand the fan base and some of the media all saying, hey, we need to move on. We need to get another option. But I also think like the reports of the Broncos like looking for another quarterback, a little bit overblown, right? Obviously, they didn't go Justin Fields at 9, which I guess some people may have liked that, and I probably wouldn't have, but some people certainly would have. And okay, yeah, they were interested in Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Statistically, he was the best quarterback last year. Yeah, I think he was interested. Every team was interested in Deshaun Watson. This was before the sexual allegations, so that kind of cooled off. Now there's reports to them being interested in Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I'm interested in Aaron Rodgers too. Everybody's interested in Aaron Rodgers. Like, if you don't have like the proven commodity, you should be interested in Aaron Rodgers. Like, to me, like, oh, you're overblowing it for a guy who I think has a ton of potential versus a couple guys in the NFL that are superstars. Like, I don't think that's a fair comparison. To say they're interested in one thing doesn't mean they have to dislike the other. You know what I mean? So I really believe in Drew Lock. Had some injuries last year. Had some raw deal with COVID and everything. The entire team was injured at one point. So I'm hopeful to see another year. I'm hopeful to see improvement. I really think like if the Broncos can put it together, Drew Lock can put it together, I think this is a playoff team. I really do. There's not a ton of holes. Vic Fangio is a great coach defensively. They have some weapons offensively. They made sure of that last year with Jerry Jeudy and Hamler in the 1st and 2nd round. Obviously, they brought in another running back this year. They got another lineman. Their offensive line going to be fine, I think, for the most part. I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited to see what the Broncos can do in this 2021 season. I do think that they're going to be a lot better than people are expecting. I really do. And then obviously if they get Aaron Rodgers, they're, Super Bowl contenders. I mean, so, hey, I'm going to get out of here. I know I went a little bit long on this one. I'm a big fan. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time, guys. Peace.